Greetings and welcome back. It's great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here on the cutting edge of societal evolution. And I can already tell you we're going to be doing a fourth hour this week just to get stuff in from today that I'm not going to have time to get in. But we're going to get it. I can't do it today because I got to do a newsletter interview after the program. I'll be talking to Professor Hazlett, my old telecom expert buddy from Sacramento, and telecom issues. Cellular companies, the internet, net neutrality, all that has become his area of expertise. And he has written a book. In fact, I have it back here. You have a picture of it there, Brian, that you can switch to. The Political Spectrum, the tumultuous liberation of wireless technology from Herbert Hoover to the smartphone. And one of the points he makes is that if we had net neutrality 10 years ago, like it is being advocated for today, it is likely the iPhone could not have been invented and manufactured. It would have been in violation of rules that are desired to be implemented today. So, this topic is one of these topics that has its own language that is very exclusionary, like economics lingo is, designed to keep you from understanding what's being talked about. Professor Hazlett writes about this in layman's lingo, and much of it is fascinating. So that's who I'll be talking to. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, climate change is a big issue on this program. It has been for the entirety of this program. This whole climate change started as actually part of the animal rights movement, if you want to know the truth. It started with such things as Earth First and Spotted Owl. All of those issues were tied to climate and environment. They ended up being mixed and melded as time has gone on. But that's for as long as these people have been attempting to deter and stop progress in America, I have been on the case. Now, one of the things that's being touted today, and has been touted for a long time, is clean, renewable energy. And one of the elements of clean, renewable, sustainable, you have to use that word. If you use that word right now, you will own many millennials. That is a word that's very important to them. Sustainability. Remember, millennials, 18 to 34-year-olds, have been raised with the idea the planet will not support human life by the time they reach 60. Don't smirk. They are told this. I have been astounded to discover that many of them believe this. Many leftist millennials, in journalism particularly, my tech blog buddies or wherever, they really believe it. This is how they grew up on Captain Planet, the Ted Turner Saturday morning cartoon where corporations were destroying the world. And they've bought all of this. And so anything that will make the planet habitable, they support fully. And sustainability, whatever it is, sustainable environmental policies, sustainable economic policies, whatever it is, if the proponents say it's sustainable, that's half the battle in persuading the left. And one of the elements of this is the electric car. And the electric car has a very powerful character who has achieved all-world star status. His name is Elon Musk. And people who believe in climate change, sustainability, believe Elon Musk is the savior of the human race. He owns Tesla, SpaceX, the rocket company. And he believes that we're going to have manned mission to Mars to be able to colonize and save people from having to die on Earth. And there are people who believe this. Even though, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have a propulsion system yet that would get anybody to Mars and back. It just doesn't exist. In fact, Musk is building a rocket that he claims will be used to get people to Mars and it's about the same size as the Saturn V rocket that was used to launch astronauts to the moon. But ostensibly, it's 10 times more powerful than the Saturn V was, but it doesn't exist yet. Anyway, all of that is a pipe dream, but yet people believe it. The same thing with the electric car. The electric car is to me, one of the great contradictions and ironies. It is nowhere near clean energy. In order for electric cars to operate, evil coal has to be used to provide the electricity to charge them. And coal, as you know, is hated and despised by the sustainable, clean, renewable energy crowd. They hate it, and they want to wipe it out. They want to get rid of it because it's ooey, it's filthy, it's ugh, it's black and sooty, and it just ugh, and they want to get rid of it. So I ran across an absolutely fantastic post yesterday on the Powerline blog by Stephen Hayward. He's a Reagan biographer, a well-known media raconteur. He's an academic, he's a professor, he's a lecturer. And he, like me, is on the case of these phony baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and rollers in the so-called Save the Planet, madcap, militant environmentalist movement. And he ran across a story that I saw last week, too. The state of California is going to ban gasoline-powered cars by the year 2040, which is 23 years from now. They are going to ban gasoline-powered cars. This is after they implement state-run single-payer health care that will triple their existing budget. And Stephen Hayward writes, I certainly hope California follows through and tries this. If nothing else, it'll provide wonderful black market opportunities. Think of all the meth labs that'll convert to mini refineries, not to mention the smuggling, because it's impossible. It's impossible to get rid of gasoline-powered cars by the year 2040. It's simply undoable. And I want to tell you why, and it's a great post for detailing this. Such a scheme as California's of getting rid of the gasoline-powered cars by 2040 assumes the widespread availability of electric cars. I mean, if you can't buy a gasoline car, you're going to have to buy some car. And so it's assumed that the electric car is going to be widely plentiful, widely available, and very affordable, none of which is true now. Tesla can't make anywhere near enough to satisfy the demand, and they couldn't make any if there weren't subsidies. And they couldn't run if it weren't for coal. But that's not even half the story. Has anyone considered how to supply the massive amount of electricity to charge 25 or 30 million electric cars in California? It's not just the total amount of electricity, but also transmission and fast charging capacity that'll need to be built at our current filling stations. We're going to get rid of filling stations, replace them with charging stations. A Canadian engineer has walked through the mathematics of all this and concludes that to match the energy equivalent of a typical gasoline service station, filling station today, an electric charging station would have to have 30 megawatts of capacity. Now, 30 megawatts of capacity is equivalent to the electricity use of 20,000 homes. So you have your average gas station in California, which is going to go because gasoline-powered cars aren't going to be legal. You have to replace them with fill-up stations for electric cars, which are charging stations. You're going to have such powerful charging stations, 30 megawatts per gas station. In other words, each charging station will have to have enough electricity to fully provide power for 20,000 homes. Now, it goes on. Factoring in the aforementioned credit card transaction and the washing of windshields that might extend gasoline refueling to 5 minutes, it would still require 650,000-watt chargers for a roadside station to service the 2,000 cars that those gas pumps could service in a busy 12-hour period. So let me run the numbers in a different way. You have your average gas station in California. The numbers have been run here. 2,000 cars stop in a day to fill up. The equivalent of that in electricity, 650,000-watt chargers at each station. And that's a conservative estimate, that would require $24 million just to buy the chargers. So whoever owned the service station, the filling station, would have to spend $24 million to provide 50,000 watts of electricity every 12 hours to fill up or fully charge 2,000 cars. But that's not all. They would also need 30 megawatts of power. Now, for those thinking that that's a hell of a lot of electricity, you're right. 30 megawatts, for perspective, is enough to power about 20,000 homes. In other words, powering these new charging stations of the future will require about the same amount of electricity as a city of 75,000 people. Oh, and by the way, all of that electricity, unlike off-hour home recharging, happens during peak usage daylight hours. That's when people go to the gas station. You couldn't afford to have all of this in every home. In other words, all of that extra power, at least for intra-city travel, will have to come from new sources. We're getting rid of gasoline, and we do not have the electricity generating capability today to replace it. In California is the example here. So, the existing ability to generate electricity for people in California does not include the ability to charge all of the cars that will need charging, because every legal car on the road will be electric and need to be charged. So brand new power plants will have to be built at the most optimistic prices posited for the future cost of solar panels. That's about $1 a watt. Another $30 million per charging station. If you want to go the windmill route, you'll need 10 of those at each station, each costing roughly $4 million. And just as further reminder, all of this is for each and every roadside station. The point is, it isn't possible. And this story doesn't even mention the use of coal to provide all this electricity, which people who think they're engaging in renewable clean energy don't even stop to think that all this so-called renewable clean energy is generated by a product they literally despise and are trying to get rid of. So the point is, it's not possible. It simply isn't possible. It's also not possible that even in 23 years, we will not have the capacity to manufacture enough electric cars that people want to replace the gasoline-powered engine in California. Holman Jenkins had a column in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. Let me read this little segment to you. Fiat admits to losing $20,000 on every electric car it sells in Europe. General Motors admits to losing $9,000 on every Chevrolet Bolt that it sells. Even Tesla is partly sustained by selling zero emissions credits to conventional car companies that actually make money, unlike Tesla. Synthesize all of this down, and it simply isn't possible. It would not be clean by their current definitions, and it certainly wouldn't be renewable. It would require massive new power plants. It would require $24 to $30 million investment for each existing gas station in California to convert to a charging station. Each charging station would need the ability to power 20,000 homes. Well, that power is already being used to power those 20,000. You're going to have to manufacture brand new power plants. And let's see how that goes with the environmentalist wackos and their environmental action reports trying to delay your structure building by 10 or 15 years. So you see, it isn't sustainable. It isn't even doable. And even if it were doable, the cost is absolutely stupid. There simply isn't anything that is available to humanity in this current era that comes anywhere close to the efficiency and the power derived from the internal combustion engine fueled by fossil fuels. There's nothing. There's nothing even close. And let's talk about making every airplane electric. You couldn't get one off the ground. You couldn't get a jet off the ground. You couldn't get a cargo jet off the ground. And let's talk about, if we're going to ban electric cars, what about giant semi-trailer trucks? Those giant Peterbilts, what are we going to power them with? It's not possible. And yet there are people seriously pursuing this. And they're getting votes, knowing full well it isn't possible. It's simply yet another pipe dream brought to you by the left, lying to your face about the supposed problems of today which don't exist and the magical solutions for tomorrow which will never exist. Back in a moment.